Let's begin. I'm excited to present and welcome all of you to our workshop, DTM Testimonials for Strategies to the DTM. What a wonderful subject for us all to look at, not only if we're on that path, that journey toward DTM, which of course we know Distinguished Toastmaster is the highest educational award in Toastmasters International. Some of us have more than one DTM. And I know that some of the attendees to this workshop will have DTMs. And so some of you may be wondering, how do I strategize to get my DTM? And others who have their DTM may very well be serving as mentors to other members of their club or of a club that they're coaching or mentoring to help them strategize in the journey to their Distinguished Toastmaster. It is with great pleasure then that I introduce this workshop that has 3 panelists. I'm delighted that we have 3 distinguished Toastmasters with so many years for their young age, so many years of experience to share with you. What we're going to do, and I ask everyone to please maintain their muted status, if you will. We're going to introduce each panelist separately, allow them to make some comments, and then when all 3 panelists have finished, we will open it up for questions. What I would like you to put into the chat at any point that you would like, please put in the chat what questions did you want to have answers to from this session, from this workshop. If you want to direct the question to a particular panelist, feel free to name them and say, I'd like whoever to answer the question. If, on the other hand, it's a question for all panelists, great, just enter your question. I will try to serve as your trusty chat master and read the questions and open it up to our panelists to discuss. All right. It gives me great pleasure to announce that while one of our expected panelists was not able to join us this evening, and that was Cheryl Warren. Cheryl is fine. She just had a conflict at the last moment, but to our wonder and delight, Kathy Kest has agreed to sit on this panel for us, so I am delighted. Catherine R. Kest has been in Toastmasters since 2010, 11 wonderful years. And in addition to her certification as a project management professional and a grateful leadership training, I love that. Kathy has achieved 2 Distinguished Toastmaster awards, and she's on her way in the Pathways program to her 3rd DTM. She's achieved level 5 in dynamic leadership and effective coaching. And by chairing the district leadership committee, she finished her HPL and is ready to begin her DTM project prior to achieving her 3rd DTM, this one in Pathways. It's always about documentation and planning, Kathy says. As I'm sure everyone knows, but if you didn't, she served District 56 as our director, immediate past district director, where we have 5,000 members in the greater Houston area. She served in leadership roles in TI District 56 for the past 6 years. So she's focusing on personal leadership and communication skill development. Today, she's going to be sharing some of her own heartwarming stories of her personal journey and how she accidentally became a leader. Please help me welcome Kathy Kest.
Thank you so much, Pat. I appreciate that introduction. When I started Toastmasters, it was because I had 27 hours and 5 minutes. And someone said, please stop the madness and help us and find out how to speak. I had no idea that leadership would be a part of my journey until it was. In 2010, when I began, I didn't do very much. I just meandered through. The people in my club were not big on doing speeches or taking credit for speeches. No one in my team had a DTM, and they didn't even know what it, I mean, they didn't push it forward. I didn't know what it was. And then I went to a speech contest for humor and won, and then won again. I didn't make it through district, but it was quite the eye-opening experience whenever I figured out what Toastmasters was really all about and some of the possibilities. I remember I walked into a PMI Toastmaster group or project management Toastmasters group, and a girl ran in the door and said, "I got my PMP and my DTM the same day." I'm like, "What? How'd you do that?" As I saw her joy, I had just finished the week before setting for the PMP. That's a project management professional test that takes about 4 hours. It's quite an ordeal. At that moment, I had my competent communicator and my competent leader, and I was an area director. I'm like, huh. I set her aside, and Lori Jimenez and I chatted for a while. And she told me how she had done it in just a few short months. Ladies and gentlemen, it was all about the planning and the follow through, documenting everything that you did. I love that one of our Toastmaster sisters says, you don't let a Toastmaster friend speak without taking credit any more than you let someone drink and drive. Make sure that every time you open your mouth in a Toastmasters meeting that is applicable on your journey. One of the transitions that happened, I did achieve that DTM, my first DTM, in 8 months after the CCCL situation in September. That following July, I was a DTM. What? I was so proud. But it's when you're involved and active every place you go, you have an opportunity to speak. And really all you need to do is find a way to make those speeches applicable. As I kept moving forward in leadership, I was speaking more. And the more I spoke and documented everything, before I knew it, I had 2 DTMs. Then Pathways came along. Man, I thought that was going to be hard. It's like, well, I'm done getting a DTM, and I was all like bah humbug about it. I'm 65. It was not an easy transition for me either. However, let me tell you, I have now begun working on 5 different paths, and I'm having a blast. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so much easier than the legacy program was to achieve the Distinguished Toastmaster status. You'll be amazed. Walk through it, figure out what you want to learn and what you want to focus on, and enjoy the path and the journey that you're on. With this, you too can be successful. You can have that coveted DTM after your name, and you will learn, grow, mature, and become better tomorrow than you are today. I'll pass it back to you, Pat.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I know we're going to have some questions for you in just a little while. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Jose Antonio Bettencourt, our new Division N Director. Congratulations to Jose. Let me tell you a little bit about Jose Antonio. He's an investor and entrepreneur for real estate, and he works for one of the Catholic churches. He's held management roles as president of Radio Maria Catholic radio station for US and Latin America, and marketing manager for Asia Chemical. Jose's background is in administration, finances, marketing, and sales, and he also serves his church as an acolyte. His District 56 Toastmasters service means he probably needs no introduction here, but he's getting one. He's been the sponsor for Pensadores Northwest, which he still is very active in. He's serving as the Sergeant at Arms right now, but he's also served in prior years as President, VPE, and Secretary. I also want to mention that I am delighted to have seen Jose Antonio winning the Bertman Award. I was in district office when that award was initiated, and I knew Bertman. He was in his late 80s, maybe early 90s at the time, and he hadn't missed a thing. He was still making all the meetings and recruiting new members to clubs. I mean, amazing. So Jose Antonio, you are also amazing, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce you now. Jose?
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm happy and very excited to do this time and share my story about how I get into Toastmasters and my journey to DTM. And first, let me tell you, I got my DTM surprisingly in 18 months. I was rushing. It was like a run for me, and I was running hard to get my DTM, and then I had to slow it down. But everything started when my wife went to a club in Spanish, Pensadores de Houston, and she was so excited. She came back home and so excited telling me about this speaking club. And I said, why you need that? You are awesome. You speak very well. You expose yourself with the public excellent. Why you go to a public speaking club? And she said, well, you don't know what they are using grammatic, act counters, time. Everybody is evaluating you, and they have a very nice environment. You should come. And I said, well, that sounds good, but no, thank you. And then a couple of weeks later, she came to me and said, I'm going to do my first speech. They call it icebreaker. Would you like to join and hear my speech? And I said, well, sounds good. I'm going with you. So finally, I went to that club, Pensadores de Houston, and it was so friendly and welcoming environment. I really enjoy it. And then, you know how the meetings runs, and all of a sudden, I got someone that asked, hey, Jose, we are going to do a promptu speeches, table topics. You want to participate? And I was a little shy, and I said, well, yes. Then, of course, they called me to participate, and believe me, I was shaking from toes to my head, and I was so nervous, but I enjoy it. Finally, I did it, and I was, yeah, I did it. But after that, my wife shared her icebreaker, and her icebreaker was who I am, where I come from, and why I'm in Toastmaster. Then I heard her speech, and I say, wow, this is real good. But besides that, after the break, she had an evaluation. And in the evaluation, I heard some good things about her speech and recommendations, and I engaged. In that moment, I engaged, and I said, well, I would like to do this. Finally, I joined that time. It was April 2016. And next time I went to the club, I said, I want to do my icebreaker. And they said, for sure. And I prepared my icebreaker. And my icebreaker was who I am, where I come from, and why I'm in Toastmasters. And then I gave my speech, you know, sweaty hands. I was shaking, and I was moving all over and doing little sounds like when I was doing my speech. I never thought about all these vices when you speak, but it was so awesome because after the speech, I got a very nice evaluation. And then my wife came to me and said, why you use the same title for your speech? I said, no, I didn't use the same title. I thought that the icebreaker was to say who I am, where I come from, and why I'm Toastmasters. And she said, no, that was my title. So you took my title. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I just tried to follow your lead. But anyway, from there, I started going fast and fast. I learned how to do my CC or competent communicator, then the competent leader. And all of a sudden, I said, how am I going to get to DTM? And there was a guy there named Victor Garza. And I asked Victor, hey, Victor, can you help me understand what I need to get to my DTM? And he said, well, for sure. We went to take a coffee. In the coffee table, he bring a piece of paper and he starts saying, well, to get your next level, you need to do 10 speeches and then do these all leadership projects and then so on. When we finished that list, it was like 40 more speeches that I have to do in order to get my DTM. And I said, no way, Jose, this is gonna be too much. It's overwhelming. But I was in a rush, so they said, well, probably it's not what I want, but I'm gonna give it a try. So I start doing a calendar with my BPE, trying to schedule at least 2 speeches per month and 2 leadership projects, or do 2 roles in the meetings. So that way I was doing both sides. Well, it was amazing, but 18 months later, I was DTM, and I was so proud of that because I understand that it was not the get the DTM, it was the journey. I started learning so much things about it, but then it comes to me the why I want to do this. And I said, well, I think that I want to do this because I want to do it in English, not in Spanish, but I need to first do this in Spanish very well, understand how I need to do it, break some of these fears that I have, and start doing more with my hands. Forget about this nervous that is so tough. Every time, no matter what, no matter how high you are, no matter if you have 1, 2, or 3 DTMs, you still have nervous. No, I believe me, the thing is how you manage those nerves when you are on the stage. And I'm talking about that I'm now with you virtually, but I have a very good story and short story to tell you. One speech I said, my dream is to be in front of an audience of 5,000 people to give a speech that inspire and motivate in English. And a couple of years back, I got an invitation for a network marketing convention. And they told me that I had 700 people there. And I think, okay, it's a good warm up for my goal. So I went to do that speech. I was on the stage when I see bunch of people there. And I start, sweating. I got my hands a little wet. And I said, okay, when I finish my speech, 45-minute speech, that I put my heart in my hands and I deliver that speech, like you cannot imagine how I feel good. And then I asked my wife and she said, you have 3,500 people there. And I said, wow, okay, half of my dream came true. So I need to go to the next stage. But that's the way I enjoy my journey to DTM. And I can tell you, when I moved from the legacy to pathways, I was pathway guy. And I understand that probably pathways is giving us better options to get there easier and probably faster in different way. I would say that I like pathways because it's breaking down in more little steps, like before that we have to do big steps to get into the certifications and then, but either way, I think it's just matter to enjoy the journey, plan ahead, take notes, use every chance you have to do a role, to do a speech. And believe me,
Looks like Jose Antonio is a little frozen on my screen.
Yeah, it's the same for all of us.
By the way, let me introduce our master host, Distinguished Toastmaster, Roop Roy. I know, Roop, you can't do miracles, but is there anything we can do to get Jose Antonio back?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
he's dropped off. He'll probably rejoin.
all right.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry
hopefully
to
he'll.
interrupt. Maybe he can call and just talk if his bandwidth is low, Roop.
Hopefully, hopefully so. So we will hope that he rejoins us shortly. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our third panelist, Eddie Merla. I've known Eddie for many years, and he is still such a dedicated District 56 Toastmaster. Eddie is not only a distinguished Toastmaster, but also a project management professional, and he's the founder and owner of Duende Project Management Services, a provider of project management training and consulting services. Eddie's a professional speaker and trainer on project management, leadership, communications topics, all of the above. He's a frequent presenter for the Project Management Institute, and because of that, he has been a presenter at the PMI International Congresses in Scotland, Canada, Panama, Spain, Netherlands, Brazil, Malaysia, Australia, and France. So you don't need to join the Army to see the world, just the Project Management Institute, apparently, and Toastmasters. Eddie's had the unique honor of evaluating 5 world champions of public speaking in person at one event. He is also one of the founders of the Master Evaluators Toastmasters Club, an advanced club that focuses on the art of evaluations. Of course, we know he's achieved the Distinguished Toastmaster Award, and he has also served as District 56 as a past district governor. Please help me welcome Eddie Merla.
Thank you, Pat. By the way, you were one of my idols when I first joined Toastmasters. Once I figured out what a governor was, at the time they were called governors,
Yes.
and I saw you really impressed me from the very first moment. And I thought, okay, that's what I want to do someday, maybe, if I even go that route. So you were one of my first idols. I do want to share that I didn't come into Toastmasters to get a DTM. I had some very basic needs, and I'll share that. I have a little presentation I'll share with you. But I want to confess something first. My first impression of DTM was not good. I joined Daybreakers Toastmasters Club, very strong club at the time, great speakers. And I noticed that few of the, excuse me for saying this was 19 years ago, but a few of the older members had DTM after their names. So I had to ask, because nobody explained to me what a DTM was. I said, what's a DTM? I asked Dan Gormley, and Dan said, it means done too much. And so my impression wasn't really great for a DTM. And then I started finding out a little bit more. So I want to share just a few tips. I do have a very simple presentation. So let me see if I can bring that up real quick. And these are some lessons learned along my journey. So the first tip is know your why. You've heard that several times today and throughout the conference, but it's really important to know your why. Why do you want that DTM? How's it going to help you? How is it going to complement what you're trying to achieve in life? So what's your why? For me, my why began in New Orleans on Bourbon Street. I was 18 years old. I saw this street preacher give an amazing speech, and I was mesmerized. And I thought, if I could ever do that, I would be on top of the world. And that's really what started my journey. But then my dream was dormant for many, many years. It wasn't until 3 decades later that I started coming to Toastmasters. And that was because I was given a little pink slip. And that little pink slip said, okay, if you're going to ever pursue your dream, now's the time to do it. So it's very important that your dream, you don't get conflicting signals for your dream. Sometimes you get conflicting signals. So you want to make sure that your dream matches up. If you want to focus on a DTM, know that that focus on a DTM, there's a reason for it. For me, the DTM, once I understood it a little bit better and truly understood the work it took to become a DTM, I realized it's going to help me establish my business. Speaking, networking, training, so the leading, so all of that would complement my business. So that's why I started pursuing the DTM, is because it was going to give me more opportunities to do so. Number 2 is know the path. What is the path? It was different when I took it, and now I'm very close to getting my 4th DTM. I have completed 2 paths, and I'm trying to figure out what DTM project I want. But basically, there's a very simple checklist. It can look really confusing, but you have to complete 2 paths, serve as a club officer for 12 months. It can be in 2 different clubs for 6 months. Serve as a club mentor or club coach, serve as a district officer for 1 year, serve as a club sponsor or conduct a speech, craft, or youth leadership, and then complete the DTM project. Let me just mention something while I'm on this list. For me, just like Jose, I think I completed my first DTM pretty close to 18. It was either 18 or 19 months. But I was slow. Once I started becoming a district officer, I was an area governor. They were called governors back then. But once I became an area governor, I realized there were so many opportunities to speak. I really started picking up speed. In fact, I completed everything I needed to complete. And it was kind of funny, but at the time, I had completed all requirements except serving out my one-year term as an area governor. And someone asked me, what do you need to complete your DTM? And I said, I need to live for 30 days. That was my answer. So number 3, be hungry. You really want it. If you really want it, it can happen. You'll find opportunities. I want to echo what Kathy said, but you find every opportunity, use it, be hungry. So this is my vision of being hungry. You always ask, well, how did the goats get up there? They were hungry. That's why they get on top of that tree. They were hungry. Be hungry. Learn when to say yes and when to say no. And you get better at saying yes when you figure out if it helps you accomplish your goal, say yes. Sometimes it's a stretch. You can, once you get known, you get asked to do a lot, and it's great. We volunteer a lot, especially if you're very involved with the district, but you want to leverage it, leverage it to your advantage to accomplish your goals. And occasionally it may be okay to say no. If it doesn't help you, then it's okay to say no. Number 5, always have a next. So I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm a project manager like Kathy. So I always like to have a very clear schedule. What's next? What's next? So I always know what's next. And something that I talk about, so the always know, when you look at your path, you look at what you're trying to accomplish, always figure out what's the next project, what's the next thing I need to do. And number 6 is use your calendar. And I know Kathy can relate to this as well, but what gets scheduled gets done. If you don't put it on the schedule, it's not going to get done. That's bottom line. That's project management 101. Put it on a schedule, create a schedule. What gets scheduled gets done. And then my final tip is find your Yoda. So for me, my Yoda was John Martin. Some of you may remember John Martin, but he was my Yoda. He was never my official mentor, but anytime I needed anything, and even now I can hear his voice in my head, because there are things that he gave me a lot of direction unofficially, whether I was competing in contests or serving in the top 3 in the district, but he was always there. It just seems like he was always there to answer a question or a struggle or anything. So find your Yoda. And in fact, he's the one that encouraged me to take up speaking opportunities when I was serving in district offices. He said, just take advantage of that opportunity. And that's how I got to my 3 DTMs. I slowed down after that, but now that Pathways is here, I'm well on my way to getting my 4th DTM. I've completed 2 paths. I just need to complete the DTM project, and I think I need to complete one of my coaching opportunities. So I will now return control back to Pat.
Thank you so much, Eddie. And as you've heard from all 3 of our speakers, it's about the journey. Yes, DTM is the goal, but the journey is important, and how you plan and how you strategize to get from where you are today to that DTM. Enjoy the journey. Be sure that it's meeting your intermediate needs between now and DTM. All right, I'm going to ask our panelists a somewhat simple question before we get to some of the audience's questions, and there's some really good ones in there. But now that you have your DTM or DTMs, I bet you're very good at, seeing that spark in a new member, or maybe it's a member that joined and is ready to take on an officer role, and you say, this is somebody I can help go the distance, go to DTM. Tell me what you see, panelists, that maybe tells you, yes, this is someone who, if we mentor, if we bring out these leadership qualities and help them with their communication and leadership journey, they're going to be a DTM. Anybody want to take that question? Kathy?
Yes, I'm honored to take that question. I wanted to share with you guys, remember at the beginning of my speech, whenever I was explaining that we had no DTMs in our club? When I became a DTM, people in the club that were in their 70s and 80s told me absolutely they would never do it. 3 of them are DTMs now, and we have 6 DTMs in our home club.
Wonderful.
It just took someone showing them that it was a possibility and that there was growth along the way. They chose to become DTMs not because I was so great, but because I came so far. They watched the journey change me into a leader and a presenter. And as far as the shiny pennies out there, I was picked up as a shiny penny, and I have learned to watch for them.
Yes.
Samantha Smith just won the International Speech Contest, and she has agreed to be an area director next year. Ladies and gentlemen, she's going to be one of those leaders. Jo Ido is a shiny penny that I picked up at MD Anderson. She is our district director-elect. As we go through and see people that are extraordinary in their life, you don't come to Toastmasters empty-handed. You come already developing into the human being that you want to be. Our job is to take those beautiful humans that want to grow just a little bit more, encourage them and help them to see themselves in a different light.
I would like
Thank
to
you,
add,
Kathy.
I would
Go
like
ahead.
to add to that, that indeed, when you have a mentor or someone help you to get it there, it's very important. And their mentorship is going both ways. Sometimes someone pick you up or someone you pick a mentee. So it works both ways. And I can tell you, because I have also very good testimony with Brenda Villagrán, that she was discouraged to get her DTM. Finally, we break it down step by step. We follow up through that. She got it. And after that, she served as a area director. And after area director, she signed up to be a division director. So you can see when they start developing leadership. So it's not just about one thing. It's once you find the path to get into the leadership, you just start moving and flowing to that path.
That's right. That's right. Well, now we're going to talk a little bit about challenges, especially as we went from the legacy program to the pathways program. So one of our questions is national, which I think means international, is being rigid in the audit, due diligence, and vetting of persons caught in the middle transition of former legacy and the current pathways. What would you suggest? For example, former clubs that this person was a member of did not keep records properly. Oh, can't imagine. Yeah, it happens. Some of the officers are deceased, files are flooded, international does not trust that we are being honest, etc. Perhaps. I assumed they did so. Therefore, I will take some personal responsibility for not managing my records. I'm almost there and have not lost hope. Any suggestions from our panelists as to, you know, it has been a challenge, I think, for many who were on that path. In our own club, we had 2 members who were really close, and boy, they put the pedal to the gas to get that DTM by June 30th, 2020, and by golly, they did. So what are your thoughts, panelists? Any of you had any experience in this, and how maybe to finesse this challenge?
I would offer that they can leverage everything they've done, and it's the pathways is a lot easier once you get started. That's the key. You have to get started. If you don't get started, it's going to seem like some sort of obstacle, but once you get started, it's really a lot easier. I know I was a little hesitant myself starting on the pathways, but once I got the hang of it, there's a few things that were a little bit tricky to get past, and a learning curve. I had to go through a learning curve as well. But I think you can start leveraging everything that they may have done before, and then you just take that and leverage it towards making progress in your paths. And I think that's the best thing. And the other thing that I mentioned as well is that some of the requirements are still there for DTM. So the serving as a club officer, still the same thing. Serving as a district officer, still there. DTM project. So you had an HPL project before. Depending on the path you take, you might have an extra HPL project, which I did. I did the planning path, the effective planning path, and that required an HPL and a DTM project. So I'm still now working on my DTM project, but it's basically the same. It's just that the speeches are different. So they have all the material. If they have it there, then why not leverage it and make quick headway in the past. Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
I think also today, with pathways running, we have better tools to track on the educational pathways. Why? Because we have 3 ways now that we can track of every step. Not just that you have your own personal, you probably can do a spreadsheet and you just track what you are doing, but also, for example, if your club is using Free Toast, that is an awesome tool, and you have an excellent database that you can go to Free Toast by yourself and just pull out all your speeches, your roles, and everything. So if you lost track of what you have done, you can get it from there. Let's say that your club is not good at keeping track on that. No worries, because when you are doing pathways, in your pathways, you have also an education. You have there every step on the road as well. And if for any reason you don't have that ability to get there, well, in the Toastmasters International dashboard, you can ask your secretary, the VP, or any officer of your club to help you to pull out your information, and you're going to have track of your education. So I think there's always ways to find out where you are or where you've been, so then you can come and update where you are in terms of your education.
Who might be the District 56 person who could help this individual or those individuals who are in the middle, so to speak? Would it be the project quality director or program quality director? Would it, who could this person go to perhaps find out ways of leveraging that previous experience and getting credit and moving on from there? Anybody?
I have a question for you as opposed to an answer, because I can give you the answer if the question is answered. Does this person, are they trying to get their DTM under the legacy program or not? That's critical.
Yes, it is.
There's 2 different answers.
Okay, let's assume, because it is my understanding that you can't get the DTM through the legacy program
You still
anymore.
can. You still
can't. Okay.
There's for 1 more month. So
That's
it's pretty tricky. It's pretty tricky. The way that you do it is, if you are a coach, they have allowed 1 year, so until June 30th of 2021,
Yes.
they've allowed for you to, if you can be a coach and the club becomes distinguished, then you get a year of service plus a year of coaching at the same time. It's an extraordinary opportunity. I do not expect it to be offered again and again and again, but my goodness, if that's all they need, they have to have achieved everything but the year of service and the coaching in order to qualify for this. So that's one thing. Now, if they just need some help, Joe Ido, Program Quality Director, is your source, and she will assign you a Distinguished Toastmaster coach. We have that role in the district, and they will be able to assist you with moving through your journey.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your offering that. All right. Let's see if there are some other questions. For Eddie, does PMI recognize Toastmaster services hours as credit as a project for certification?
If you belong to a project management club, and the topic has to be project management related, but yes, if typically the project management clubs in our areas do try to line up with the PDU requirements from PMI. So yes, but if you're just going to a regular Toastmasters club, it's much more difficult to get a credit there. But if you line up with a project management club, and I believe I know we have at least two, maybe, no, we have three. We have three. And so there's one in the Sugarland area, one in the Galleria area, where it's Sharpstown area, and then one on the north side. So if you line up with one of those clubs, you're lined up with PMI, in fact, with the local chapter of PMI. So you definitely get credit when you get presentations, and so you get credit just literally for showing up at the club meeting.
Great idea. Thank you so much. All right. Can any of our panelists give us some examples of DTM projects that you have done or that you have heard of? That is a question. The question of DTM projects has been a question I've been asked about. So panelists, what can you tell us?
Let me make one clarification when I dug into the difference between an HPL and a DTM.
Yes.
And an HPL can be on any goal, anything. The DTM project has to be something that serves an organization, whether it's Toastmasters or whether it's a different company. It doesn't have to be Toastmasters. It can be a company, it can be a nonprofit organization. It can be, but it has to serve an organization that has members. So there's some benefit beyond just the individual, versus an HPL can just be a goal. So you have a goal, and then you still need to have a team to be able to accomplish that. But it's still a focus on a goal versus the DTM project. You need to serve an organization.
I would like to add that in some cases, those HPL projects, as Eddie just said, can be outside of Toastmasters or can be inside of Toastmasters. I would say an example, I was planning for a group of the church, a big group of ladies. I was helping them to organize a fundraising, and I was doing a lot of steps. I created a team, I created the mission, the vision, and every step on the way that HPL project requires. But all of a sudden was when Harvey hit Houston, and they have to back out on that project. And then I was so disappointed because I was like 6 months already there. And what I got information is that if I organize the club or the area or the division contest, you can use it as an HPL, but you have to do it in the organization and do it the team and follow the steps, and then give a speech about what was good, what was wrong, what you learned from that, and then you have to fill some special forms and send them to Toastmasters. That's the way to do the HPL, and those are examples. For example, if you want to sponsor a club, do all this process to sponsor a club can be a HPL project as well. But the way you establish step by step the process is how it counts as HPL program. And talking about DTM is very specific now in pathways. When you get into those points, you have the project, the step by step, how to follow up. But those are examples of what you can do in order to achieve it.
All right, so the distinction is the HPL can be on anything. It can be a personal goal, but the DTM project needs to be a service-oriented project for an organization of some sort.
Toastmasters or any organization.
It could be for your club.
Oh, absolutely.
Any,
Absolutely.
okay, fantastic. And it has to be approved. So what's involved in that particular process?
Well, in my case, I was organizing the division 2 years ago. I was organizing the division contest, and my division director signed like approval of that. And also all the members of my team signed up the form, because the form is not just signed by me, it's by all the members on my team, certifying that they were there helping me developing and doing whatever that I did. And also I attached the evaluation on the speech that I gave to the club. I think it's also part of that project.
Wonderful. Okay.
Under the pathways, you do have to submit a request to even get the DTM project. So you have to submit a request to headquarters before you can even get the project. You can't just start it on your own. You have to request to get the packet. You have to have completed one complete path. And I think you need to have at least level 3 of the second path complete.
That's correct.
Before you can submit your request.
Okay. But
To just
because
recap that,
schedule,
To
Go ahead.
recap what Eddie said, is just one path complete and third level on the second path to request.
so what you schedule gets done.
That's right.
So I'm hearing you make a little note, when I get to this level 3 of my second path, this is what I need to be doing. Excellent. I've heard that what gets planned gets done, what gets scheduled gets done so often that I'm beginning to think that it's a mantra, either for District 56 or Toastmasters in general. But it's just so true. It's just so
That's
true. Do we have any more questions? I don't see any more questions in the chat. Would anyone like to add a question for our panel? We
We're
are
waiting for
getting-
questions. Oh, I was just going to add one more thing on the
Sure.
DTM project. If I had to do it over again, I would have probably picked a different HPL project. The HPL project I picked could have been my DTM project, because what I actually did for my HPL project for one of my paths was to create a seminar called Zoom and Gloom. So it was a specific seminar to help Toastmasters with being more accustomed to working in the virtual space. So we actually I recruited very expert presenters, people that are very comfortable with Zoom, and we held a seminar, and that was my project. But if I had to do it over again, I would have made that my DTM project. And I would have focused maybe on a contest or something else for
Right.
my HPL project, because it was a lot tougher than what it seems.
For sure.
I did the
Hindsight's
same
2020.
thing, Eddie. I did the same thing, dear friend. I chose being DLC chair, district leadership chair,
Yeah.
as my HPL. And now I have to find something more
Right.
challenging, actually. And I'm going to be, somebody had asked in the chat, give an example. I'm going to be meeting with the Rotary around the city, 33 different,
Yes.
and hurrahing them to be part of Toastmasters and see how we can mesh that. Therefore, that will be my DTM project. I haven't done it yet. It happens
Oh.
after the conference, whenever we can chill a little bit.
But excellent, excellent. I think we have so many opportunities with Rotary. We haven't been able to quite make those a reality yet, or we're just beginning to get into that. So that's a wonderful idea.
Well,
All
I have a
right.
question for Eddie and for Kathy, because I never done the Speechcraft or the youth program. I know that for sure they also count as HPL or other kind of program.
Yes.
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 My wife did it, and she was engaged with a group of ladies at the church, and she was doing for 3 years in a row. So incredible, because she involved people from our club to do the Speechcraft, and then bring some people from the Speechcraft to the club. It was so nice to do that, but I never had the experience to do it. I would like to hear from you if you had that experience and how you use it in terms of use it for educational path.
Eddie?
I have done a Speechcraft. In fact, I've done probably several over my Toastmasters career. And basically, I just focus on the Speechcraft itself. At the time, I wasn't focusing. Now, if I had to do it over again, I would use it to try to grow membership for a specific club. Before I did it, it's kind of a standalone thing. It was a project. You got a little booklet. You just took everything in the book and followed the instructions. You created a little workshop, which is great for me because that's what I do in my business. I conduct workshops. It was like, okay, I can do a workshop on speaking once I got better at it. And so that's what I did. So I really focused just on the aspect of holding either a full day Speechcraft, because you can modify it. You don't have to take the 6 weeks or the 8 weeks. You can modify that. So I've actually done it in a maybe 2 Saturday session, but we did break up. We did all the same modules. We just timed it a little bit differently.
Very good.
Absolutely.
The Speechcraft I was involved with was at University of Texas. And I've literally only done one, but we had a remote audience, a hybrid meeting, if you will.
Wow.
And that was quite fun because I was with Diane and Pam, Diane Nino and Pam McCowan. They took 2 different groups into other rooms to handle their icebreaker and evaluation sessions and so forth. And I was with the people remotely around the state of Texas. It was really fun.
That does sound like fun. And you're already experienced in a hybrid meeting. Congratulations. Well, we're getting close to time. We've got about 5 minutes left. If anyone would like to raise their hand and ask a question, we can handle that. Or if you want to put a question into the chat, we're happy to take care of that as well.
I do have a Yoda story if you guys have a minute, if nobody else has anything. Oh, I see a question. Oh,
Well, it's actually kudos to great panelists. Thanks for your insight. Thank you, Monique.
thank
All
you,
right,
Monique.
Kathy.
So mine's a Yoda question because after the DTM, what do you do then? And I remember I was just exhausted. I didn't want to do anything else for Toastmasters. I was finished. I went to Pam McCowan and I was like, nobody appreciates me. Poor me, poor me. And she said, oh, Kathy, did you potty train your son? Okay, yes, I did, of course. And she said, and when he went poo-poo for the first time, did you clap for him? I'm like, yes, of course I did. And then she said, how old is Michael now? And I'm like, 37. And she said, so when he goes poo-poo, do you clap for him? Oh, gross, no. She said, baby girl, that's leadership.
Well put. I will remember that
came,
story.
Yes, you came up because everybody supported you. It is now your turn to support others and help them.
That's
true.
right.
My little
I would
Yoda.
like to close with this. In my case, that I'm bilingual and I'm working with all the clubs in Spanish. One of the things that I was trying to help is to put everything on video clips, small video clips, easy to see, share on WhatsApp groups, so they can see, like, do you know that? And I share something like the district, how is the district working? Or now the officers, now this time of nomination for the new officers of the clubs, I did a little clip on each of the roles of the officers. So that way, all the members, the new members, especially new members, start understanding how this works. And I think that would be my legacy to the Spanish community, because many of them, they don't want to be exposed to the English community for some reason, probably that barrier or so. Like I said, you have fear to expose yourself to the English community. So that's what I try to be the lead here and inspire them and see, you know, even with what words or whatever, you can do it, no matter what, is that you want to do it and you can do it. It's what I feel that I can do, keep working with the Spanish community or the Hispanic community and bring them up to the district to do the leadership as well.
Absolutely. And we also have such a wonderful Asian American and Pacific Islanders that they have clubs, I believe, as well, where English is the second language. Houston is an amazing diverse community, and we have so many opportunities to share Toastmasters with them. So I am delighted that we had you 3 wonderful panelists. It's so good to see you, even if it's virtual, but it's so good to see you. Spring conferences in the past, or conferences in the past, were always reunions, and I've missed that. So I can't wait to actually see you in person. Thank you all so very much for participating in this workshop today. And I encourage those who have been on this, in this meeting and in this workshop, feel free to please contact any of us if you have additional questions, and if we don't have the answers, we'll try to find them for you. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pat.